Okie dokie. Here we have another fairly simple problem. This is more mathematical reasoning or mathematical knowledge. The question is telling you to factor this. So, factoring. I kind of suck at factor. Well, I don't, but I did. It's still one of my weakest subjects or weakest concepts. But essentially what we're doing is we're simplifying this is a binomial, but we're simplifying this to make it easier to work with later. Factoring makes no sense. There's no reason behind it until you get into something like calculus, which is what all these are for. Don't worry about those. But if you want to pass this test, you gotta know how to factor. So, factoring is essentially taking something out. You're taking out a factor of a number to make it smaller and more simple to work with. So, we do not like exponents. 3z to the fourth, screw that. We don't like that at all. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna factor out a 3, but we're also gonna factor out a variable, the z. How many z's do we factor out? Because we have 4 here. Can we factor out 2 z's? Can we factor out 3 z's? No, we can't, because whatever we factor out from here, we also have to factor out from here, and any other terms that may be in the polynomial, because this is a polynomial. So we're going to factor out a 3z because there's only one z here. So we have 3z, and in parentheses, we're going to have however many z's are left, because we took a 3 out of here. So this is just a z to whatever now. So that 3z is here, but we still have 3 z's left. So I know that doesn't make a whole lot of sense the way I'm saying it, because there's a 3z here, and I'm saying there's 3 z's, but z to the third, z cubed. See, 3z times z cubed. And then how many times does 3z go into 6z? Twice. But since we took out a z, it is now just a 2. Simple enough. Now, if you are unsure, I've wasted a lot of time with factoring. If you are unsure of if this is correct or not, you're going to do what's called distributing. So, I will go ahead and write this in a different color so it doesn't get confusing. The distributive property is essentially just multiplication. You also have the addition property, which is addition and subtraction. It's called the addition property, but that's just how it is. It's what I did earlier, where I subtracted 70 from both sides, etc., etc. So, the distributive property, we're going to multiply 3z by these. Anything inside the parentheses. Doesn't matter how long this thing is, you could have 10 terms in here. The distributive property states that anything outside the parentheses, which is usually just one term, 3z, even in calculus, it's generally just one term. You're going to multiply 3z by z cubed and 3z by 2. So, 3z by z cubed, you're going to put a 3 in front is the constant multiple rule, which is something that you won't learn about until calculus, but it applies here. So the constant stays the same because we don't have any other numbers in front of this z. So the constant just gets dropped down, it stays the same, 3. Now we multiply the z's. But there's a little rule with exponents. So when you multiply exponents, you're just adding them. So because this is 3z and doesn't have an exponent, it technically does. It's 3z to the first power. So we add those together, z to the fourth. Now, 3z times 2. Whenever you're multiplying a constant by a constant, you get a constant. Whenever you multiply a variable by a constant, you are not multiplying the actual variable, you're just adding the variable to the constant. So, here we have 3 times 2, that's 6, plus 6. And then we have z times 2, so 3z times 2. It doesn't become a z squared because it's z times 2. It just stays 6z. And as you can see, they are the same. So when you get an answer in factoring, if you want to spend a little bit of extra time on it, use the distributive property on what you just did and see if it matches your original answer. If it doesn't, you messed up and you got to go back and redo it. But that's the gist of it. And I have another little bit harder one that I'm going to show you here in just a second.